Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parsha Shir on Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva. I'd like to share with you two thoughts that Rav Schwab has on this week's Parsha. The first is a thought about the opening of the Parsha. Parsha opens, Vayigash elav Yehuda, the famous words, where Yehuda approaches Yosef and recounts the entire story of their saga of the brothers coming down to Egypt to get food and getting in trouble and being accused. Now, of course, the final step of the journey where they absolutely do not want to let Binyamin go. They don't want to let Binyamin become captured by Paro or Yosef or the Egyptians, and Yehuda explains with such emotion, such force to Yosef, the plight of their father who would absolutely be destroyed if they didn't return Binyamin to him. Rashi, on the beginning of the Parsha, explains that the posture of Yehuda here was very harsh. Vayigash elav Yehuda, vayomer, bi Adoni, Yidaber na'avdecha davar b'einei Adoni, ve'al yichar apcha b'avdecha ki chamocha keparo. Yehuda approaches Yosef and he says, "Please, my lord, bi Adoni, let me, your servant, Yidaber na'avdecha, davar, let me speak a word to you, be'oznei Adoni, in your ears, and don't get mad at your servant, ki kamocha keparo, because after all, you are like Paro, I'm speaking to you respectfully." So Rashi says, from the fact that he says, Va'al yibchar apcha, and the fact that Yehuda asks Yosef not to get angry at him, Mikan atalamed shediber elav kashos. From here we learn that Yehuda was speaking very harshly. Why does a person say to someone else, please don't get mad, but it means that they're about to say something that's going to get the person mad. Or if you say to a person, don't take this the wrong way, but it means that what their words are going to say, it could be taken the wrong way. So the fact that Yehuda says to him, Al yichar apcha, means that he is saying words that are difficult to swallow, words that are strong, words that are forceful, that could indeed cause Yosef to become angry, to become slighted, and therefore he reinforces to him, don't get mad, because I consider you like Paro, I have the greatest respect for you, but I have to say something very difficult, something very harsh. So Rav Schwab says, Kol halomed parsha zo, Yisma. Anybody who learns this parsha, the opening of the parsha, and this Rashi, will be very surprised. First of all, Rav Schwab doesn't say this, but first of all, you could be surprised. How could anybody speak harshly to the viceroy of Egypt, to the second in command? It's surprising that Rashi would claim that Yehuda was doing this to begin with. But in addition, there's a textual stira, there's a textual contradiction between this and what had come a little bit earlier. Haremi kodem amar Yehuda, the end of Parshas Miketz, Yehuda comes to Yosef after the Gavia, the cup of power, was found in the bag of Binyamin, and the brothers are brought back to Beit Yosef. They're brought back to Yosef's palace, and they're engaged in this conversation. Over there, the language and the posture of Yehuda is so very different. First of all the brothers come, Vayiplu lefanav artza. They throw themselves on the ground before Yosef. Their posture is one of submissiveness. It's one of humility. They're absolutely subservient to the viceroy of Egypt, to Paro. In addition, Yehuda himself steps forward and he says, Vayomer Yehuda, Yehuda says, Mano marla adoni, manu daber, manitz tadak. What am I going to say to you, says Yehuda? What can I speak? What words can I use? How can I justify my actions? These are the words that we use in Tachanun. These are the words we use in Slichos. Manu mar, manu daber, manitz tadak. How could I speak? How could I open my mouth? I'm a nothing before you. I have no justification for being here. I'm completely at your mercy. It's a language of submissiveness. It's a language of humility. It's a language of respect. It's a language that absolutely connotes an understanding that you are up here and I am down here and I have no right to speak to you. So how could it be just 2-3 psukim later? Vayigash elav Yehuda, according to Rashi, Yehuda takes an entirely different posture, where suddenly he's speaking to him words that are harsh, divrei kashos, words that could anger him. How could the posture of Yehuda change so quickly? As Rav Schwab explains, shediber b'hachna b'shiflus ruach u'mazeh v'al mazeh shepitom azar ki gibor chalatza v'heichin es atzmo lemilchama im Yosef. How could it be that on the one hand he's speaking with shiflos and nachas ruach, speaking kindly, speaking submissively? The very next pasuk, he girds himself with strength like a hero and he comes in ready for war. How does his posture change so quickly? V'shamati ata mimori v'Rebbe Agan Reb Yosef Lev Balach Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha. He says, I heard from my Rebbe in 1926, I believe, Rav Schwab, leaves Germany. He leaves Frankfurt, where he studied in the school of Rav Hirsch, and he goes at 16, 17 years old to study in the Telzer Yeshiva in Lithuania, one of the great Lithuanian yeshivas. And he studies with his Rebbe, Reb Yosef Leib Blach, whose father-in-law, Rav Gordon, had started the yeshiva. So he tells over this vort in the name of his Rebbe, Reb Yosef Leib Blach. We see from the quick transition in Yehuda's mood, in Yehuda's posture as he speaks to Yosef, something very important about the idea of assuming responsibility. Nischadesh bilvavo ometz ruach v'kolchos chadashim shelo hayu bo mikodem. V'az pasach keneged Yosef b'dvarim hakashim kigidim. He says, in this speech, one thing is different from Yehuda's previous speech. In this speech that Yehuda is making, in the very end, he comes to the point in which he reminds himself and Yosef of the fact that he took responsibility for Binyamin's return, that he spoke to his father Yaakov and guaranteed that it would be upon him to return Binyamin. He assumed responsibility. And says Rav Blach, the fact that he reminds himself of the assumption of responsibility is what changes his posture, because when a person assumes responsibility, they transform themselves into an entirely different person. V'don mina le'inyan kabbalas ol hamitzvos. Shebeschus koach HaKabbalah mischadshim laha'adam kochos shelo hayu l'mikodem lahafer zemamo u'lekayem mashekibel al atzmo. We could extrapolate from this general notion of the fact that a person who assumes responsibility upon themselves develops all kinds of inner strengths to be able to fulfill their task, to be able to push themselves harder and stronger and to different heights that they never thought capable of before, which we learned from here for the posture of Yehuda that changes so strongly from submissiveness and humility to a strong posture of war and milchama and diber kashos, going at Yosef with all of his force because he reminded himself that he has a responsibility, and responsibility breeds and yields and gives birth and flourishes this beautiful form of strength within the individual. We can extrapolate from that general principle about leadership and a responsibility to the realm of Torah and mitzvahs as well. When a person accepts upon themselves the responsibility of mitzvahs, when a person views their life of Torah and mitzvahs as a responsibility, that responsibility breeds within them a certain sense of excitement and passion and inspiration and strength to be able to fulfill the task, to be able to rise to the challenge, to be able to fight with every strength in their body and gird themselves like a hero, to be able to accomplish the task of fulfilling that Torah and mitzvahs. I think it's such a true principle in leadership in general, and responsibility in general, and certainly an important lesson for us as we view our relationship with Torah and mitzvahs, perhaps viewing it in the level of responsibility, that it's not an obligation only, but it's also a responsibility that each of us assumes upon ourselves, perhaps can transform our self-image, perhaps can transform our approach to mitzvahs and yield great benefits. Second point, which Rav Schwab makes. After Yosef reveals himself to the brothers, Yosef and Binyamin cry on each other's shoulders. Vayapel al tzavre Binyamin achiv, vayefku Binyamin bacha al tzavarav. That Yosef falls on the neck of Binyamin, his brother, and he cries, and Binyamin cries on his neck. The famous Gemara Maseches Megillah says, Amar Rabbi Lazar bacha al shnei mikdashim she'atidin liyos bechalko shel Binyamin v'atidin licharev. Ubinyanim bachal tzavarav bachal mishkan shilo she'atid liyos bechalko shel Yosef v'atid licharev. So famous Chazal, Gemara Megillah, which says what they were crying about was the loss of future places of godly worship. Binyamin was crying on Yosef's shoulder because, after all, the Mishkan in Shiloh was going to be destroyed, and Shiloh was in the territory of Yosef. Yosef cries on Binyamin's shoulder, Binyamin's neck, because he sees that in the future, two Beis HaMikdash are going to stand in the territory of Binyamin, and both are going to be destroyed. Rosh Schwab says, Yesh la'ayin lama lo nefarish hadvarim kipshutam, shebachu merov simcha kenahug ba'olam. How come we don't explain on a more simplistic level that they cried on each other's shoulders because these were tears of happiness? Why do we connect these tears of happiness to the loss of the Beis HaMikdash? V'shamati mipi ha'ilui hagaon ha'rav Mordechai Pugramansky Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Sheyesh Medrash al HaPasuk Umach Hashem Elokim Dima Ma'al Kol Panim, Afilu Dmaos Habos Machmos Simcha. Upirish Huzah. He says he heard a pshat from this great Eloi on the pasuk in Yeshayahu, which says Hashem will wipe away all tears from the face of the earth, that perhaps the Medrash suggests that those tears that are wiped away are even the tears of Simcha, even the tears of joy. And this Eloi explained that Medrash as follows, which will come to help us understand the crying of Binyamin and Yosef over here. Pireshu sha'atam shebochim b'shas simcha gedola, al af she'inyan b'chiyah miuchedes l'tzar mechov, v'aschok miuchedes l'simcha, hu mishum shekeshenivne ha'beis hamikdash, ubachar la'kadosh baruch hu dir b'tachtonim, yarda simcha l'chol ha'olam. To explain that the reason why a person cries in a time of happiness, when normally tears are reserved for something very, very sad, is because you have to understand the nature of simcha and the nature of tsar, the nature of pain and the nature of joy. It says when the Beis Hamikdash came down into the world, and God chose to rest His Shekhinah here in the world, that's when true simcha was brought into the world. Sharei Beis Hamikdash makor hasimcha, because we know the Beis Hamikdash is the root and the cause, the foundation of all simcha in the world. As it says in Tehillim, Yefei Nof Misos Kol Haaretz. Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash, is Yefei Nof. It's a beautiful place that is Misos Kol Haaretz, the place that brings simcha into every place on earth. And there are other midrashim, other gemaras which allude to the same point. Ukshecharav Beis Hamikdash nital makor hasimcha min haaretz v'yared tsar l'chol ha'olam kulo. When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, that level of simcha was removed from the world and replaced with tsar, replaced with distress. What happened after the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed is that the simcha that a person experiences in life are like islands of time, islands of joy, amidst a sea of distress. But the norm of life, the norm of the world, whether for the Jewish people at large or for individuals, is unfortunately that we experience a lot of difficulty, a lot of tsar, and so that the ocean out there is an ocean of tsar, an ocean of tears, an ocean of pain, and that sometimes you have these islands of simcha. Ukshemagia e simcha gedola, misrabe hasimcha al gedoseha, v'hipogas bigvuleha asher b'yam hatzar, v'hayagon v'nichnas hatzar letoch hasimcha, uba ha'adam lidei b'chiyah. Unbelievable pshat. He says, what happens when the simcha is so strong on that island that the simcha explodes? It pours over the sides of the island and starts to mix in with the ocean of tears, with the ocean of tsar, the ocean of distress. The lines, the borders between tsar and simcha, between distress and happiness, become blurred when the simcha overflows its edges and runs into that ocean of tsar. And when the two touch each other, a person begins to cry. When a person is so overflowingly happy that they just burst out crying, it's because their simcha overflowed and began to touch the tsar. Because it touched the tsar, the bechiyah, the tears are actually coming into the person. This beautiful mashal, beautiful analogy, and beautiful thought is so true of the nature of a human being. You understand that deep down, sometimes when you're really, really happy and you cry tears of joy, really at the basis of those tears, if you think about it very carefully, is that you're crying because you're so happy in this moment for all you have received, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking to yourself, it could have been so much worse. Look at this one has that tsar, and that one has that tsar, and look how much tsar I personally had, reaching this point, and I'm just overflowing with tears of joy. I can't believe I made it here despite everything else. That despite everything else bleeds into your moment of simcha. Your true simcha, your true height of your joy, the true tears that emerge at the end of your excitement and your simcha are tears, yes, of joy, but the tears of joy are actually about being so happy that you're not immersed in the tsar, the distress that came before it, or that could come after it, or that comes to other people. The tsar is a piece of what leads to your bechiyah shel simcha, your tears of joy. If that's true, nimtza she'abechiyah shel simcha in totza meheder Beis Hamikdash, lachen shebachu Yosef Binyamin machmas simcha, hare b'zeh gufa heiru she'atu damishkan b'shnei mikdashim licharev. Now we can answer our question here on our pasuk. It's true that in the pshat level, the Yosef and Binyamin were crying tears of joy. They were very happy to see each other. But the happiness in seeing each other is tied to the future destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, because they understood that after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed in their territory long in the future, these tears of joy that are emerging will actually be tears of joy that touch upon the sadness that emerges around it. Hopefully each of us can reach those levels of incredible simcha, incredible happiness, have many, many, many islands of simcha that overflow their banks and flow into the river of Tsar, into the ocean of Tsar, and so that the two meet and we cry for just how lucky we are for being spared those moments of distress and emerge with greater moments of joy. Shabbat Shalom.